Hey guys, Nicole here with Nicole Does Stuff, and today I'm going to show you some chairs I got at a resale shop, and I'm trying to make them look more steampunk.
So this is how the original chairs were that I found at the consignment shop. And they're kind of like a shabby chic style, not really my style. And then instead I went through and painted all the white parts gold and added a little extra gold and reupholstered the cushion. So now it's more of a steampunk style. I'm going to show you how I did that because I have 7 more chairs to do. First of all, you're going to lay the chair down and locate the screws that are holding the chair seat on. On this chair, there's 7 of them. Next, you're going to take a drill or a screwdriver and remove the screws. If you have a small area you're working with, you might have to get creative if you don't have a short-handled screwdriver. See, this is getting in the way of where my screwdriver would have been. So I'm using a pair of channel locks along with the bit out of my screwdriver to loosen the screw in this case. Like I said, you can get a short-handled screwdriver that would work. You might also be able to use a drill bit if you have a flexible hose that goes to it. So here I am working on one of the screws I can reach with the screwdriver, and just want to get it out of there by turning counterclockwise. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And I can feel it's out as far as it's going to go, so when I turn the chair right side up, it'll fall out of there the rest of the way. Okay, now that I've got all my screws loosened, they should just fall out when I put it upright. Yep. Make sure you put your screws somewhere safe where your cats can't mess with them. Next, go ahead and remove your chair seat. There might be some resistance depending if it has gummed itself on there from age and dirt, or maybe the paint dried to it. And you will be left with a chair like this and a seat like this. So if you're doing a chair that already has some sort of padding on it, you don't need to get any sort of foam for it unless it's really worn out and you do want to get new foam for it. This is a 2-inch thick piece of something called new foam, NU foam. So this is going to be my chair cushion. It is technically a little bit small for what I'm doing, but that's okay. I was on a budget and I did not want to pay for extra foam and have a bunch of wasted pieces that I wasn't using, so I went with the nearest approximation. You can also get a high density foam, which is your more traditional spongy foam rather than being a batting type foam like this. Then you're also going to need fabric that you want to use. I don't care about the selvage because it's going to get tucked underneath the chair and it's not going to be visible. So I'm not really losing any fabric there. So if you're doing a chair or redoing a chair that is already upholstered, you can choose to leave the fabric on it unless you're replacing the padding, in which case you're going to want to take it all apart. But generally whatever's on there already is just going to be stapled, so it shouldn't be hard to separate it. I'm leaving this sort of woven wickery stuff on there because I need something to support my padding for my cushion. So we're just going to go right over the top of this. First I lay out my fabric, and then I put my foam on top of it. And you want to make sure that your fabric piece is big enough not only to cover the top of the chair, but also cover the foam after it's on there and be able to wrap around to the underside because you're going to be stapling it about where these existing staples are. In this case, I'm not working with a perfectly square chair bottom, which makes this a little more difficult, but not much. After I lay it down, I want to see how far I can pull that up. I want it to come up a little further, so let's adjust that back a little more. Check my edge again, looking better. Check my back edge. Okay, we're okay on there. And you are going to get more pull, more fabric as you work your way toward the back because you're going to be pulling it as tight as you can and it's going to be smushing the cushion somewhat. Smushing the cushion. Okay, so I've got this turned around because there's only so many angles I can work with. I really wish I had my own cameraman sometimes. But you're going to pull your fabric up. And I like to fold the edge under because it's less likely to fray. So pull your fabric up, cover the existing staple if you can, and then you want to staple near that staple but not on it because you're not going to be able to go through it. And there we go. Okay, swapping around to this view now to show you how my staples have gone so far. My staple gun's a little less heavy than the staple gun that originally did it. You can see there were thicker staples before, but it will still do what I need to do, and after I have my fabric in place, I can go back over it and reinforce it. So I'm going to do my entire front edge first and pull that fabric tight along the front. Alright, so I've stapled my front edge now, and since I'm working with rounded corners, I left it loose when I hit the corner. If you're working with square corners, you might want to leave it loose because you still will have some finagling with it. So anyway, I was also careful not to block the holes that the screws have to go back into. So now that I've got my front done, I'm going to work on one of the sides, and I'm going to make sure I'm pulling the fabric taut as I do it. So your front edge is established, and you want to make sure you're pulling that fabric tight, because as people sit on it, it will stretch a bit, and you don't want it to get all like loose and wrinkly over time. So I'm working kind of sideways here so I can show you. Same thing, I'm going to fold my edge under, and I'm folding it in such a way that I miss that screw hole. And then I go ahead and shoot my staple into it. I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way up along this edge, leaving it loose when I get around to this area. So I've done this edge, and as you can see, it's a little bit wrinkly right here. Whoops. Right there. So don't worry about it. If you see that, just pull it up, add another staple. You just want to pull it out so that it's going to be smooth on the other side. This side does not have to be pretty. So what I'm going to do is just check and make sure this side's smooth. So I flip it up and I take a look at it, and so far we're looking good. You can see I have a little bit of an edge here between where the foam and the chair is because, again, I was using... Oh, hi, kitty. Do you want to play? I think somebody wants to play. Good girl. So anyway, if I was using a piece of foam that was perfectly cut to the shape of the chair, I would not have this issue. I would actually recommend doing that. But again, I was on a budget, so over time, I think the foam's just going to kind of smush into shape anyway. I'm happy enough with it. Now I've flipped it around, so my finished edge is opposite of me. And this is where you're going to have to start putting some oomph into it. Because you really want to be pulling it tight. So I'm going to start down here, and I'm pulling it toward me. I'm folding my edge over and pulling it up, and I kind of have to hold it into place because I am trying to make it taut. And then when it comes to this excess foam right here, I'm just smushing it in. You could, like I said, cut it to the actual shape of the cushion and your project would look better, but I am okay with having it wrap around. I'm just pulling and securing it, and then you can go back over it with more staples once you have it all generally in the place where you want. See, like here, not enough staples because it's bowing, so I definitely want to pull it up. See how it's pulling my foam in toward it too? And staple it up further. Alright, so now back to my front edge, and I'll have these little floppy things on the corner because I've done the sides and the front. You want to kind of finagle it to be as smooth as possible on the edge. So I'm pulling it, I'm looking at it, making sure it's smooth as possible. You are going to have some little flaps, and kind of pulling and tucking it in. Hold it in place. There we go. And your corners are generally going to take extra staples because you have extra layers of fabric here that you're trying to deal with. So don't be stingy on the staples. You want to make sure this is going to stay. If you get a staple that looks like it went in wrong, try to pull it out if you can. But there we go. Alright, so see, I've just got one little bump there. I could even pull it in and staple it more, which I think I'll do, and it gives it a nice smoother look. After you get your front corner stapled, flip it over and make sure it looks okay. Like I said, again, I know I keep repeating myself, if I had cut it perfectly to the chair shape, it would look better. But as it stands, I don't think it looks bad, and as people sit on it, it's going to smush it down too, so it will be less obvious in my case. So if it looks okay from the front, go ahead and flip it over to the back, and then you're going to work on your last side. So now we're on our final edge. So this is the one you want to pull the tightest. I'm going to start in the middle. And staple gun the fabric in, and I'm just going to do up to these edges. After you've done your back side, you might have a little notch here if you're not working with a perfectly square seat. Going to take your fabric from the side and try to flatten it into that notch as much as possible. So I'm pulling it over, stapling it down. Then you can worry about folding it under and trying to pull this one in. So you probably won't be able to get it perfect, but you just want to make sure you have enough room where when it slides back into place, this fabric will lay flat and not just be pulled taut across it, and you'd have to tear it to get in there. So you want to make sure it has enough give where you're going to get this little notch up against the wood post, okay? And then do it for the other corner. So your finished cushion might not look very pretty from the backside, but it should look good from the side that people are going to see. Like how I did that, my feet here, because it's just me. Now, before you put the cushion back on, you have to decide what you want to do with the chair itself. And in my case, I chose just to cover up this white paint with gold, and then add some gold also to the places that didn't have any paint to make it more symmetrical. And then I went and added gold to all the bevels. So I'm going to do that. It took me about 2 hours to do it all by hand with 2 coats, because this is a pretty ornate chair. Other options you could do would be sanding it and staining it, which was more work than I wanted to put into it. And I did really like this green, I think they call it like a verdigris finish on there, and I wanted to keep that. So it will depend on the chair. It should inspire you in some way and give you an idea of how you want to transform it. For my paint, I'm just using a gold acrylic. I bought the highest quality one I could find because I want it to go on thick, especially since this has a clear finish on it, so it's not going to stick very well, which is why I had to do multiple coats. But I'm going to paint it on there, and then you have the option to seal it with a clear spray if you want to afterwards. I don't feel that's necessary because I'm applying it just to decorative edges, and I don't expect it to get much wear and wear off very quickly. So since I chose to take the easy way, I'm just painting directly onto the finished wood. Like I said, I did not want to lose this green finish that's already on there. I just wanted to accent it. If you want to sand it down and then do it, your paint will last much longer. The nice thing though, see how I'm like getting it where I don't want it, is the clear finish on this allows you to just pretty much wipe off any mistakes. And I really like that. It's very forgiving to do it this way. Of course, that means your dry paint will also come off easier than if it wasn't on top of this finish. But again, since these spots are recessed, I don't expect there to be a whole bunch of wear and tear on it. After you've got the paint or stain or clear coat, whatever you're doing to your chair on there, go ahead, take the cushion, put it back in place, and then tilt the chair over and put all the screws back in. And after you have your screws all tightened down, your fabric and your staples should be all stuck under where the chair frame goes. That will hold it in place even better. It should be sandwiched in there. And I now have 2 down, 6 more to go. But I'm really happy with how these turned out. And just remember, steampunk doesn't necessarily have to be brown and brass. It doesn't have to be leather and gears and tentacles. You can take it in many different directions, and I really like that I was able to keep the green and work that into my motif.
Alright, so that was me steampunking a dining chair. I hope this helped you out. It's really not that hard, so this should give you some confidence to try it yourself. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe so I can bring you more random stuff.